Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adoption Happy Hour brought to you by NAP. We are the National Association of Adoptees and Parents, where it is our mission to unify the adoption community and elevate our diverse voices by promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing through education, awareness, and connection. I'm Marcie Keithley, Board President and host for this evening. Joining me in the Zoom room is Beth Story, helping out, and I believe Jennifer's not going to make it this evening. I don't think she's going to be joining us tonight. But we're honored that so many of you showed up this evening, this Friday evening. And again, if you haven't attended a happy hour before, please feel free to let us know that in the chat room. Let us know where you're watching from and say hello. So before we get started, we just have a couple of little housekeeping items we want to go over. We want to remind everyone that this is a public meeting with no guarantee that information or identity is confidential. Portions of this event are recorded and will be shared in our private happy hour group on Facebook. Please remain on mute. If you have a question, try to hold it till about 8 o'clock so they can complete their presentation, which is recorded. You're welcome to post comments and questions, and we'll keep track of those. Also, if you are experiencing a serious mental health event or suicidal thought, please contact a licensed professional or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We do have a private happy hour group on Facebook, which is where the replay will be shown. We do that so to keep this, to continue to keep this a safe space. Again, the Q&A will not be recorded. We'll stop it at that point. Okay, Beth, I'm finished with that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Flourish Experience. I heard about this a while back with Ann Heffron and Pam Cordano, and was excited that we could bring this to Happy Hour. So we're real excited about hearing how this whole idea started. And now that the book is out, and I believe it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, we have 3 panelists here tonight that are going to talk about the experience. We have with us this evening Colleen Flanagan-Nevin, Julia Winston, and Susie Stricker. So what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Susie. I'll let you kick us off and let's learn about the Flourish Experience.
Thank you, Marcie. Hi, everyone. I'm Susie, and I am one of the authors from the book, The Flourish Experience. And Julia and Colleen are also authors. And I'm also one of the artists that created the beautiful cover that you see in our background. And I did a few other pieces of artwork as well. So what we're going to start with today is just give a bio of ourselves. We'll tell you about ourselves, and then we'll talk about the book and our experience during Flourish. So I'll begin with my bio, which is that I was born in Maryland during the peak of the baby scoop era. I was relinquished at birth by my 21-year-old unwed mother. At 4 months of age, I was transferred from foster care to a childless couple. My adoption was finalized at 11 months, and I was raised an only child. I always knew I was adopted, but it wasn't until I was 50 that I understood that the turmoil inside of me is from the trauma I experienced from abandonment and from my experience as an adoptee. I am currently in reunion with both my maternal and paternal biological families, both families. I describe myself as an advocate for adoptees, especially here in Maryland, where policies for obtaining original birth certificates by adopted people continue to contain multiple conditions, disclosure, vetoes, and donut holes, and all the works, making accessibility nearly impossible. So after connecting with multiple adoptee groups at the age of 50, I found Flourish and Anne and Pam. And I found the Flourish community. And it was at a time that in my life where I was ready to make a year-long commitment to focus on my own healing, the power of connection with other adoptees, and the creation of a safe place encouraged me to unleash my voice. I joined the team of authors and artists to create a resource for other adoptees, their families, therapists, to share my experience of connection, healing, and growth.
Colleen, do you want to go next or do you want me to go?
Sure, I can go ahead. So I'm Colleen Nevin. What has brought me to the Flourish Experience from day one was my birth to in 1971 to a 17-year-old girl in New York City. I was in foster care for 6 months and then adopted through Catholic Charities. Went to my adoptive parents' home, officially adopted about a year and a half later. I was raised with 2 other non-biological siblings, one older, one younger, all of us adopted through Catholic Charities. I never remember a time not knowing that I was adopted. When I was about 12 to 13 years of age, my birth mother actually found my location. So for several years, there was some hypervigilance and high intensity around that situation. Of course, increasing in adolescence anxiety at that point around being taken from the only home I did know at that point. When I became a young adult in my early 20s, I had given birth to my son. First person, as many of us know, first person to really be that mirror imaging for us as adoptees. And I decided to then engage in reunion at that point with my birth mother and father, who had subsequently married when I was about 13 or 14. They were 17 and 18 when I was born. And I do have 2 full biological brothers who are in their early 30s. Went through about close to 30 years in and out of reunion with a lot of difficulty, with some very happy times, some challenging times. My adoptive parents have since passed away about 16 and 17 years ago, and kind of navigated life in a way that I thought I was doing okay and doing really well. And look at how well I was doing despite being adopted is what I always had in my mind. When I was turning almost 50, we were about 6 months into the pandemic. I am a hospice nurse. Started feeling like things were crashing around me and I didn't know why. And I had downloaded Adoptees On podcast several months before, and one day decided, you know what, let me just listen to one of these episodes. And when I did, it was like a lightning bolt. It was just everything brightened and opened up for me. And I realized that this is what was happening with me, and where my direction in life was going was towards finding this community and the support. And I listened to several, I soaked up the podcast. I listened to Anne's podcast episode. I listened to Pam's, several others. And that kind of brought me to connecting with them on social media, joining the pre-committed 1-year Flourish group, started kind of popping into different sessions of Flourish in the fall of 2020, and really just felt this bond, this connection, looking at people and seeing them shake their head in agreement and feel completely validated was the first time I had ever felt that. And I decided to take that leap of faith and commit to this 1-year group. Many times wanted to say, why am I doing this? This isn't really what's happening with me. Was very hesitant about everything, but it just life-changing for me. And the experience of then continuing after the 1-year formal group was over, and to continue this relationship with so many members of this group. We still continue to meet weekly via Zoom as well. We've met each other, many of us in person, and the decision to go ahead and move forward with this book, do this project together in hopes to really provide support for so many other adoptees. Many of them, of course, 30 years younger than me, who haven't had some of these experiences. I feel like it's an honor and a privilege to just be in this community and know that it's helping me and I'm helping others as well. And thank you, Marcie, for having us here tonight. This is one, I haven't been to happy hour in a few months, so this is nice to see. Thank you.
All right. Hey, y'all. I am Julia. I'm down in North Carolina, if you can't tell. And I am an domestic adoptee. I was relinquished at birth. Was in the hospital for 3 days. Who knows where? Was in foster care for 3 weeks, and then was placed with my parents. After that, I grew up as an only child in New York City and then down in North Carolina, and never really knew, I knew of other people who were adopted, but I didn't have any kind of relationship with them or interaction or anyone to talk about really any of that stuff with growing up. So Flourish has been really cool for me. I have located biological family members through a private investigator and through DNA testing, but I am not currently in reunion. So one of the things that was really meaningful for me about the Flourish experience was being able to witness a lot of the experience mirroring that I'd never had before. Like, I still remember the first Flourish meeting I went to, and somebody said something that could have come out of my mouth, and everybody on the screen was nodding along with them. And just from that very first time, feeling seen on a level that I'd never experienced before. I had found Anne's book, found her blog, and started attending the collage and memoir workshops that she did back when the pandemic first started several years ago. And when she announced Flourish, I was like, oh, that sounds cool. But could never actually make it until finally I saw an encouragement from somebody who's here tonight, Carrie. She had posted something on Instagram encouraging people to show up, and it just happened that I could go that week. And from then on, I was in, and as soon as they announced the year-long program, I just fired off that email, I think as soon as the session was over. And I really feel like myself and a few of the other younger people in the group really got an added, like, I feel like I have so many like aunts, older sisters, however you want to look at it who have been adopted for a lot longer than I have, and have experienced a lot of the things about, you know, reunion and how to approach that, and how to, you know, how to deal with rejection, or how to deal with loss that you just found out about. You know, being around so many people who've lived all of those experiences has just absolutely been one of the most meaningful parts of Flourish for me. And knowing that there are just a group of people that get it on a level that I had never experienced before. And I'm glad that I'm so glad that I'm a part of it, and I'm glad that it's on paper. And we have the book that I'm actually like holding right now kind of as a security blanket, because it just feels like it feels so soft and like just nice and gorgeous. And I'm sort of rambling now a little bit. But yeah, I love seeing a lot of the faces that I've seen every Wednesday for the last year and a half. It's nice to see them twice this week on a Friday as well. And to meet all of y'all that haven't, that I don't know yet or haven't seen in a while. All right.
Thanks, Julia. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay, so Susie, you want to tell us how this whole thing started?
you. Actually, if I recall correctly, somebody said at the end, the last month that we were meeting, said, wow, we could write a book about this. And we all were like, yes, let's do it. So voila, we did. And it with the guidance and leadership of Carrie and Laura K. Joy, who is here tonight too. We would not have been able to do this, the whole project, without their leadership. So I want to acknowledge that. But I do want to say that it really was the reason we wanted to do this was, as Julia said and Colleen said, was to let to have our voices heard, and to let other adoptees know that their voice matters too. And we wanted to have a resource. It just grew into this, not just telling our stories, but also a resource for families, or for other adoptees, for therapists, for anyone who is connected to adoption. And because we have lists of resources and ways to connect to adoptee communities in the book itself. So we we did this in just, what was it, 6 months? Everyone, am I right? 6 months?
Mhm.
We started in
Yes.
January, and here we are. It's printed, and it was just, and Laura was just amazing with her. Okay, this is the deadline now. Everybody get your things in, and it was just like, whoa, okay, this is really happening. And so it was really just a great collaboration of the community, the group as a whole. It was just amazing to experience. because, Colleen, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the book yourself. I was going to talk about the artwork. If Colleen, did you want to say a little something?
Sure. And, just to kind of piggyback on Susie, what you're saying about the book being, and I said earlier too, for adoptees, but I think in my heart also, it's to show that, these 20 plus people who all have very varying, various backgrounds, different settings, different situations. But when you go through and you read the theme of everyone's writing is just, it's the same. There's so many different parts, but really it's the same running theme. And that's, I think, for non-adopted people to be able to read that and go through it. And, in my mind, I feel like people hear me in my family saying this and that, to hear other people, other adoptees write and talk about the same exact things. I think it's a support for, families of adopted people as well, or just people who have no idea. So this is a resource for everyone. Yes, again, kudos to Carrie and Laura. This wouldn't have been done if they did not drive. They were the driving force of all of this. I think pushed many of us to kind of, we can all, I speak for myself, but procrastination is something that many times runs across the adoptee community as well. And I know for me, that anxiety that was there, thinking, wow, I'm putting myself out there and why am I doing this? But having their support and their encouragement through this really just pushed so many of us to continue, and so proud that we did. One piece of this was that we initially had spoken about the proceeds from the book, and so many of us had really, if you think back, I said it about myself, that the only reason why I came to Flourish was it initiated with Adoptees On and Haley Radke, and me listening to Pam and Ann talk in their episodes, and many other various therapists and adoptees brought me to that place. So we wouldn't have had the Flourish experience if it wasn't for Ann and Pam, and then if it wasn't for Haley and Adoptees On. So the work that she has done is crucial for us. It's united so many of us. I've shared it with family and friends that they listen to it. And I think it's something we need to continue to grow and support her as well. So we thought that would be an ideal place for the proceeds from the book to go to. And then the other aspect, and Susie was going to talk a little bit about the artwork, was that that would go to Saving Our Sisters, where in my situation, if my 17-year-old birth mother had some type of support financially, emotionally, to possibly be able to keep the family preservation, that would have been maybe life-changing as well. So we think that's a really important place for the proceeds from the artwork to go. So we're honored to do those things as well.
Colleen, if I could just hop in here real quick, I have
Sure.
a question. I'd like to direct that to Ann too, because, when I think about this, for those of you that are just brand new to the Flourish experience, I mean, this started out how long ago? Well over a year ago, right? Ann, did you ever think that you would be sitting here tonight with the book and this community? I mean, I'm going way back to what you and Pam, even coming up with the word flourish, how that developed. And here we are all this time later with this full community in a book. I just wanted you to speak a moment on that, if you would, please.
For me, Pam has been such a gift to me, and she's really busy. And when I got to do the retreats with her, I always felt really lucky. I felt like people, I mean, there's good things about me, but I feel like to have a therapist who's as talented and original and kind of strange in the very best way that Pam is, that I wanted other people, as many people as possible, to have that experience. And it can be really expensive to have therapy. So when the pandemic came, I just had this idea. Well, selfishly, I just wanted time with Pam. So if I create an event, then I get Pam time. And so to do the year, I just had this, I don't quite remember, but I just remember thinking, I always try to, as an adopted person, look for things that are hard for me to do. And commitment's a hard thing. And so I thought, well, okay, what if we say every week for a year? Because that seemed such an odd thing to do. Like, who does that? But now in retrospect, I feel like maybe it should have been 3 years. Like, we would have had time to kind of settle in, iron out whatever, like, difficulties arise when a group gets together. And I think that when one thing I saw is, and I see this in my writing groups that are a year long too, it's tricky business with adoptees being together and then disbanding. And so it's so neat that this group stayed together, and it's so neat that they made a forever project, because now they're forever connected. Because I'm not sure how great it is actually to do something for a year and then say, okay, now you're done. Some of my writing groups are coming to a close, and I don't know what to do. I don't like how it feels. And so I love that, what Julia said about that she has these sisters and aunties. Is that what you said? That, yeah, like, then there's a claiming that happens. So when Pam and I first sat down, we weren't thinking about any of this. We were just thinking, what can we do? Because we can't do our retreats, and how could we do something in the community that wouldn't be that expensive? Like, just create something new. And Pam came up with Pam's so good with names. She came up with the name Flourish. And I was really proud of us. I was proud, that we did it. And I was proud of everybody that they showed up. And it's a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I was just curious, because I wanted to go way back to the beginning. And now look, you have these 3 amazing authors.
Mm.
You're right. Now you have something that will last forever.
Well, and the artwork, the
Yeah,
artwork is so
beautiful
spectacular. It's breathtaking.
Beautiful artwork. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Susie, I'll let you take over. Thanks, Anne.
Okay, thank you, Pam, for, Anne, for all, Pam, Anne, whatever, for that. And yeah, it seems like it was just yesterday, but anyway, I would like to just acknowledge the 3 artists that did the artwork, and it's Michelle Hinton and Francine Bauer. I hope I pronounced that right, and myself. So when we decided we were going to make this book, we're like, okay. They knew that we were 3 artists. We were all got to know each other over the year, and we were known as the artists in the group. And so they asked us to create a cover for the book. So we opted to create our own visual expressing our own individual Flourish experience, instead of trying to incorporate little bits and pieces of our own art into one cover, one piece. So we use the inspiration from for each piece for the cover to convey the effects Flourish had on us individually. So so we took this, we each did our own project. We decided we would just start with that. And so we created 3 different pieces. And it was amazing how these 3 pieces, I mean, we were left alone. We live in different parts of the country. And so we couldn't meet in person and show like, oh, I'm using these colors and I'm using these colors and all. It was just amazing how it all just came together. And I think a lot of it is because, like in the book, it's that, like Colleen said, the same kind of theme, underlying theme in there. And so what we did was we made a collage. We have Michelle's on the front. On the bottom is Francine's piece, and mine is on the back. And so let me see, what else do I want to say? So the other thing I wanted to mention was that, like we said about how diverse the group was as far as different circumstances and different experiences. It's that's the way the cover kind of conveys that. It reflects the benefits of, or it represents the diverse community, and it also it also shows how collaboration of a community, collaboration and patience and commitment, putting something like this together, because it's not easy when you're all in different parts of the country. And so we also did it this way because that way we could offer prints and have an auction of the original artwork to provide proceeds for organizations that support adoptees. And so the proceeds from the print sales are going to go toward saving our sisters. And the auction of the proceeds from the auction of the original art will go as well. So you haven't, you have a short period of time to do this. So you have to, this is all going to be done until July 16th. And so you can do your bids and order your prints, and then on the 7th, I'll show you, and I'll tell you in a minute how you can do that. I lost my train of thought, sorry. So you can, until the 16th, you can do this. And the way you can participate is to go to www.flourish, the Flourish Experience. Make sure you have the Flourish Experience, because there's a lot of stuff out there. .com, and that's our website. And on there you can order the book, which is available at Amazon, and that's all I know so far. And then there's a place where you can bid on the original artwork, and there's a couple of pieces from the cover, and I've made a couple of extra ones. So, and then there's a place where you can order the prints, and the prints will be, everything will be sent to you by the individual artists once the orders have been placed July 16th or by July 16th. Did I read anything out? Anybody?
I don't think so. But I really just want to encourage everyone to go. I just dropped the link to the art auction in the chat box. And I just really want to encourage everyone to, even if you're not going to bid on it, go and look at the art, because it's, the detail is just incredible. I know Susie's gorgeous pieces are multimedia with wool, and Michelle's piece has some of her writings from Flourish and some of her sorry, I'm looking at the chat and getting distracted. Some of her original adoption documents and writings from Flourish, along with her gorgeous watercolor art. So just really encourage everyone to go check it out. And also bid, because Saving Our Sisters is a great reason to buy some beautiful art. And just real quick, I believe Laura, who is one of our awesome book team that brought this to fruition, has a couple of things that she wants to share. So Laura, if you want to jump on real quick.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to add really quickly that in the back of the book, so there's 23 authors, and in the back of the book, we included, Pam and Anne graciously allowed us to include all of our writing prompts, so that there's a resource list of different books and podcasts and everything, every resource we could think of for adoptees. But in addition to that, it's the monthly themes that they created and our writing prompts that we had each week, so that you can pick it up and maybe I kind of like, my part of the dream of this book was to share it so that other people could recreate what we had and build your own Flourish family from the book, using our, our writing as inspiration, but also having the prompts to work through for yourself. And if that's by yourself, or you can find a few adoptees that you know from NAP or from other connections in the community, you can build that and experience maybe what we have. And I can speak for myself, and I pretty sure can speak for everybody else in the group, and say that you can reach out to any of us at any time. We would love to talk through or answer questions about any part of it. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to let you know that we built this as partly for you to be able to experience what we experienced as well.
Thank you, Laura. That's very well said. Thank you. And thank you, Julia, also for talking about the artwork. I did want to say that Francine's piece is beautiful too. She's got the letters, and it's got words from the dictionary, and she used words that we use in our prompts, words that are related to everything we talked about, and that was meaningful for her. And it's just very thoughtful artwork around our experience and the adoption experience too. For example, the one that I have behind me, just the one with the hand, that was meant to give, that piece was meant to give a voice to the adopted child. It's a hand, and you'll see there's writing in there, and it's supposed to be the hand is reaching out and touching the inside of the mother's womb. And it was, I got inspiration for this from one of the prompts that Anne and Pam had given us, where it was, what would you write? What graffiti would you write on the inside of your mother's womb? And if you could communicate with your mother, what would you write on the inside of the womb? And so that it was such a powerful, I mean, just things that I never would have thought about. And I was just, so that's an example of what the artwork is, reflects just our experience from this, being part of this community. And our artwork is the visual representation. So.
And those, the prompts, I just kind of want to go back, especially for some of us who, I mean, I think we all came to the group with different levels of our experience in the adopted community, what we had participated in before. You know, the prompts brought out such, I know for me, such emotion that I didn't even know was inside of me. And really initially was a discomfort, but you know, and that vulnerability of writing and expressing, and then having a self-consciousness about what I'm writing and is it good enough, and all of those things go through. But as weeks went by, that minimized, that wasn't there. Again, I felt this safety and comfort in being able to really open up and say what needed to be said, and knowing that this was a safe place. And it pushed out emotion in me by just having these prompts and then having the conversation after the writing. It just all flowed and really was so cohesive. And I can't talk more highly on what we did and how Anne and Pam brought that out in us. So.
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Colleen. So,
Yeah.
Marcie, how much time?
I had a thought just now when Laura was talking, and about how really, I think, and correct me, anyone that's on here, if I'm wrong, but like, it feels like the book has a dual purpose. It's both sort of a yearbook for us that participated and a snapshot of some of our experiences and some of the things that we learned about ourselves, and also a roadmap or a guide on how you can do some of the same discovery and maybe find some of your own Flourish family for the people reading the book.
You know, and for me, growing up in a home with 2 adopted siblings as well, 3 of us in very, very different situations, in reunion, not in reunion, secondary rejection. This has brought out a lot of conversation, first of all, being more active in this community, participating in Flourish, putting this book out there, posting everywhere on social media, and also opening up, you know, again, feeling very vulnerable in doing that, but knowing that you have the support of this community. But it has brought out a lot of conversation among my adopted siblings, my birth family. So it really is the things that maybe were hard to kind of bring up and say, this has brought a lot of that out to light. So it's been a tool in that way as well.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left, unless you are ready to start with more questions from the attendees. How are we looking, guys?
Anyone have anything else before we
Yeah,
open
I think
up?
we're ready for the Q&A.
Ready for Q&A? Okay.
I don't know if Carrie or Laura have anything else to add.
Shannon is there too.
Shannon is there, yeah.
And Anne.
Okay.
Fancy Anne too.
Are you all planning to read any of your pieces? I see that question has been asked.
Any chance anyone could read? Oh, a piece?
Yeah, a part of your writing,
From
a
the book?
sample, a sample.
Okay, we can do that. How about if I read, okay, so we have some poetry too. Since we have art and we have writing, or how about I pick out some poetry? Does that sound good? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Get my readers. So, all right. This is from Katie Samantha. She is from New York and she's in our group, and she wrote a book. This is what she wrote: Flourish, a poem. Born and once alone, placed under gaslight for warmth, the clink of coins for a lullaby, belonging only to self now. Chameleon for others, adopt, adapt. Lost, untethered, seeking. A family of friends, forged in courage and voice. There are others. Together we rise.
I've got just a short piece of what I wrote that I feel like really speaks to kind of the Flourish community and my Flourish experience. I'm going to start it halfway in, not share the whole thing, so you'll have to go buy the book. But here goes. When it was my turn to share, I seriously considered declining to read anything or making something else up on the spot. I didn't want to risk the possibility of hurting other group members. It's such an adoptee thing to put everyone else's potential hurt feelings ahead of my own actual feelings. But something inside me said it might not go as poorly as what I'd played out in my head. So I blew my snotty nose and went for it. I started with my final "see y'all never" disclaimer, followed by the next 2 paragraphs. Then I waited, held my breath, and waited for the metaphorical pitchforks. The pitchforks never came. The private chat messages did, messages of comfort and commiseration. I felt valued and supported because I had shared, not in spite of it. This pattern continued throughout several more meltdowns over the year. I'd get vulnerable and say something, expecting to be reviled, only to be embraced instead. The tiny strangers on the Wednesday night Zoom meetings became people, and then friends, and then family members, as we shared our way through things as silly as a board game proposal to as serious as the nothing place.
Trying to open mine, I'm sorry. Does anyone else want to read another portion, or?
Does anyone, does Laura or anybody have a favorite piece they want to share? Laura or Shannon or Carrie?
Colleen, are you still trying to pull yours up?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I-
just trying to,
Okay.
I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll,
Oh, which one is it? I have my book. I can read it if, or unless you want to read it.
No, go, well, let Laura go, and then I'll see if I can get into it.
Okay.
I have it.
I'll read the piece from mine about the womb writing piece, which is what Susie's art is reflective of. I feel like that was one of the more powerful prompts. Let's see. The first weekly prompt that broke me open was womb writings. We were to write a message to our birth mothers from inside the womb. Think of it like graffiti or leaving our mark on our first home. Likely for a lot of us, the last place we ever felt safe. Writing my own messages was unbelievably difficult and painful. It was everything I wish I could have changed about the circumstances that led to my adoption. As other members of the group shared, I cried, and I barely choked through what I had written. And in italics in the book, here's what I wrote. I love you. I'm excited to meet you. Why are you so sad? I can't wait to meet my brother and help you take care of him. My dad lied to you. He's 47, and his other children are 17 and 12. Don't listen to your mother. I need to stay with you. Please don't give me to strangers. I'm sorry my dad left you, but we will be okay as long as we are together. As everyone continued to read aloud, one member spoke up, and I think she might be here. If the world could hear all of us, adoption would be abolished. We were all babies speaking from the womb, but with the hindsight of knowing what a lifetime of being adopted meant, we were leaving our mark to say we existed. If the world could see our pain, would they change the happy narrative of adoption? Would it give future birth mothers pause to know their babies need and want only them? I sometimes think of the womb being my wound, but it really was my first and last safe place.
Thank you for sharing that, Laura. Any
I'm
last
gonna
comment?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I can randomly just read one little brief paragraph. I'm not going to see. I was always the good adoptee. I don't remember a time in my life that I was not in a state of high alert. I've lived my life never feeling relaxed enough to just breathe and know that I'm enough just because I exist. My inner compass was always focused on doing the right thing and never disappointing anyone, since I knew deep down in my adoptee brain that this might be the reason someone might decide they don't want me and they choose to leave. This was the pervasive thought that followed me throughout childhood and into my adult life. Pre-verbal trauma was the impetus for this constant state of intensity and insecurity. I had an inner dialogue of negative self-talk and persistent indecisiveness. I needed to ensure that I did not disappoint. This had an impact on many relationships. It played a part in my role as a wife, mom, nurse, sister, cousin, friend, and daughter.
Thank you, Colleen. Any other comments? Any other readings you wanted to share before I go into Q&A? And I appreciate leaving the links in the chat room where you can purchase the book and the website. Okay, this is going to conclude then the presentation.